Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today we've got 5 new lightsaber designs. The total comes out to 46 models now of different unique lightsaber builds, all from the designer Louis Meany, aka Built Bricks. In front of us are the hilts for Darth Sidious, the Din Djarin Darksaber, aka the live-action version of the hilt as seen in The Mandalorian. Then there is the Ren lightsaber, the saber of Stellan Gios, and the folding saber of Darkside Rey. This in the lineup is actually our 10th video of releasing different lightsaber models from the designer Built Bricks. More are still on the way, and I've taken some measurements in our studio for constructing a very large, fully dedicated lightsaber wall, which will be super fun and hopefully ready for the next time I make one of these vids. Anyways, before I jump into each of these creations, first I do want to say that the instructions for all these hilts and a ton more can be found at our web store, BrickVault.toys. With each purchase comes that PDF step-by-step building guide, a parts list for fast ordering online. The models are also physically tested for strength here. The instructions are tested for the ease of building, and parts are checked in the model for rarity. In the case of sabers, we also include some PNG graphics if you'd like to laser print the names onto some sticker paper for the placards. And remember, getting instructions is an excellent way to help support our channel and the talented designers that we work with like Built Bricks. So click that link in the description below if you want to get started. And all right, let's jump right in. After releasing over 40 different lightsaber designs, we now get a chance to check out the build for Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine. When I first saw this model, I immediately went to Google Images because in my heart of hearts, I thought this saber was gold, but upon closer inspection, only the ends of the saber actually have gold highlights, with the curved aberrations of metal along the handle in the center only being a hair darker chrome than the chrome in the middle. There is still a bit of darker color hue at the ends of the handle as it gets closer to that gold bit, and this is represented in the Lego build as that single layer of dark tan towards the top. It's a sleek little design that fits easily into the hand, and perhaps he, as in Palpatine, intentionally made his saber so small so it could be concealed easily for many years. The build is strong, it can be wielded and whipped around with no brakes. It's pretty fun to mess around with. I'm glad we finally got this saber of one of the most monumentous characters of the saga. And now let's jump into a model that maybe some of you that have been following for a while think we've already launched, but there are in fact 2 very different versions of the Darksaber. In the Clone Wars, where it originally appeared, it's a bit bulky and blocky. The Lego model from the original version captures these shapes very well, I think, but when Mando came out, we get to see the Darksaber in live action, and it had to be adapted in a way for it to be more easily handleable and so it could just fit in with the real world. Namely, it is a much more round design. I think that is a key word here. The handle has round edges and so does the guard. It feels much better to pick up now, and I think one of the biggest differences as well with this updated different version of the Darksaber is that the dark gray and black line detailing has been inverted from the Clone Wars version. Originally, the black was protruding on the outside layer with the dark gray as the inlay, but I think it looks a lot better now where the black is now on the inside of the grip. Honestly, it's just a fundamentally different build approach, like it's very different on the inside, and when it comes to the head of the saber, once again, both are very accurate to the original source material, yet drastically different when lined up side by side. Just for clarification, the saber did not actually change its shape in any way like within the canon, it just looks different compared to the animated series and live action. And righto, let's jump right into this next one. This is the lightsaber of Ren, the original founder of the Knights of Ren, not to be confused with the original owner of the saber, who was also named Ren and was killed by an unnamed human male who then took the name of Ren and also named the lightsaber Ren. You got it? good. So the design is presumably Sith in origin and had a Sith adjacent user for the majority of its life. The front end of the lightsaber follows a very similar look to Obi-Wan's pommel, which I think is kind of interesting, only now the protruding brass nuggets that stick out are by the opening end of the blade instead. This could, in some odd way, just in my mind, place this lightsaber into a time period of when it was constructed. For example, this design motif doesn't really appear before episode 2, I don't think, but with my loose-ish knowledge of lightsaber stuff, I don't think this is some kind of ancient Sith lightsaber. Anyways, the back end, the true pommel of the saber, looks pretty good with some nice golden spiky bits. The blade itself is fairly practical and smooth in the center with a single activation button, and it's perhaps too smooth to be called excellent in terms of ergonomics for my taste, but I'd certainly put this a shade above the norm in terms of overall handling compared to maybe the average lightsaber hilt. Alrighty then, let's actually jump back in time to the era of the High Republic, aka the Golden Age of Jedi. Stellan Gios is the Jedi found in many of the High Republic stories, and he's also got a fairly unique lightsaber design. We've seen a lightsabery cross guard before in the universe with Kylo Ren's build, but this one is a bit different. When Stellan turns the blade on, the two metallic guards fold out, and then there is a connecting current that is established between the hilt and either end of the guard. It's an interesting design that is truly different from other lightsabers seen in the more contemporary stories, and you can see a lot of golden highlights on this model, as well as a flared end by the opening of the hilt, and these are a lot more common with the other Jedi of the High Republic era, and it represents a kind of regalness or maybe even opulence that we aren't used to seeing normally. In terms of physical prowess, this is a fairly strong Lego build. It has an easy transformation function, and I added some extra bricks to the standard display stand here so I could display this with the hilt open, but I think the more standard and more accurate version of this stored look of the hilt would probably have it lowered down and folded in. Heyo! Alright, let's finish off with the Darkside Ray Saber. This is the only lightsaber in the collection based on a design that has never technically existed. Similar to how Luke faces off in a cave against a projection of Darth Vader / himself on Dagobah, Rey fights a version of herself in the old Death Star, but none of it is technically real, I think. Only years later, in the release of the High Republic stories, do we actually see a version of this folding double-bladed saber again. So contextually, Darkside Rey in this scene is using a somewhat ancient lightsaber design against herself in her mind, but this detail is also somewhat retconned. Long story short, it is an interesting build. The color highlights in the model can't really be seen in the scene from the film very easily, like the red on the hilt or the heat-scorched ends of the blade openings, but they are certainly there, and the physical model itself in terms of handling is not easy at all to wield due to the folding function, and the ends of the hilt have a tendency to somewhat come loose. For example, holding this parallel to the ground with a single grip in the center of the hilt may lead to breaks. It's certainly an interesting idea and it looks pretty cool as a display piece, but it is not something I will be handling regularly. And before I forget, I do want to point out at the end of each of these videos that the name placards can be removed from the base version of the display stands if you don't want to use them at all. This is a very diverse set of lightsaber hilt designs, I think probably the most out of any single video. And of course, I am curious to know which ones you would like to see next. Remember, there are a bunch more on the way. And once again, the building instructions for any and all of these can be found at our web store, BrickVault.toys. What other Lego builds in general would you like to see built next? Thanks to everybody for sticking around to the end. If you enjoy our content, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.